As a high school teacher, every year, kids eventually made the same argument to me. Mr. K, don't you know that video games are educational? It was an argument I made when I was a teenager when I was desperate for 10 more minutes of video games, and it's a hot take you get seen passed around on TikTok and other social medias, typically attached with a research paper around spatial reasoning or hand-eye coordination. But are video games actually educational? And to what extent can they teach you? Today, I'm gonna give you one teacher's perspective. Welcome to my channel. My name's Connor Kablinski, I'm an educator, and the goal of my channel is to explain nerd culture and welcome people to the Dungeons & Dragons community. So let's talk today. Are video games actually educational? First, let's do a super basic introduction to the idea of educational theory. There's basically three different types of learning that occur. The first is content, things that you can quickly memorize, like in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. These are small pieces of information that we memorize and hold on to. The second type of learning that can occur is skills. Now these are context dependent and are our ability to achieve things inside of a certain setting, like kicking a soccer ball or creating a birdhouse in your woodshop class. The last one is habits of mind or habits of thinking. These are much larger ideas than skill that our brain does automatically. Things like empathy or perspective taking or even risk assessment. We typically don't think about these things unless we're in a novel experience that's causing us to think about them. So when looking at video games, which of these three types of learning could possibly be occurring? Well, obviously there are a lot of edutainment games that have been out on the market for about 40 years. Duolingo is an excellent example of these. It helps you memorize content, proper nouns, and important things that you may need to quickly recall upon. But ultimately, these are more like animated flashcards or a quiz with fun little animations to make you interested in the next step. There are other games who have taken this idea of content and more easily integrated it into them, like Civilization V or Assassin's Creed, where the dates and proper nouns and all of the interesting stuff is an integral part of the gameplay to help you learn. But ultimately, you're basically just memorizing facts and picking up little pieces of content along the way. While there are some great examples of how games can teach us content, I would argue that the real value that games offer is, can they teach us skills? Well, research exists that video games can teach us skills. The FDA just approved their first game called EndeavorRX, which is proven to help kids with ADD and ADHD improve focus, patience, and quality of life. Now, there's also research that shows that first-person shooters, while not my favorite type of game, can improve spatial awareness and hand-eye coordination. But if you're not in one of those really small amount of jobs that needs those kind of skills around spatial awareness and hand-eye coordination, and if you're not using EndeavorRX to build really specific skills, can video games still teach you skills that are going to improve your quality of life? I would argue that some video games can teach us skills. We just need to be really aware of what experiences we're simulating and what we might learn from those experiences and transfer to other parts of our lives. Animal Crossing and Minecraft are great examples of sandbox video games that can teach us a lot about resource management, risk, and exploration. But if we never stop, slow down, and think about those experiences, we might not be aware of the things in our life that we're actually simulating in those moments. I could see somebody having a bad experience with Animal Crossing and learning really bad lessons about capitalism or what it means to be a good neighbor, while somebody who had a bad experience with Minecraft might walk away thinking that it's a zombie survival game. So what skills or habits of mind should we attempt to develop while playing video games, and specifically for young people? Well, there's a couple skills that I would recommend. First is goal setting. It's obvious that video games capture people's attention, and there's evidence that they're a playground for young people to hone their ability to pay attention for long periods of time and have the patience to achieve goals that seem far away. Though I would be on the lookout for dark designs such as status programs or loot boxes that may have people coming back to games for the wrong reason. Second, it's really hard to deny the social benefit that video games can offer to kids. In my experience, they offer a medium like sports for kids to relate and connect with one of each other. The important thing is that we take the confidence that's developed in video games and we make sure there's a way to transfer it into other places of people's lives. Third is problem-solving skills. While it's harder to measure these skills, I love a game that puts an open-ended problem in front of players and has them come up with a solution. How are you going to pay off your loan to Tom Nook? How are you going to defend yourself at night when the zombies come? When we put an open-ended question in front of players, it breeds creativity and gives them a chance to try on new solutions and new ways of engaging with the world around them. Lastly, and I think most importantly, young people should look for games that ask them to be a designer. Whether it's building inside of the constraints of a world or designing the experience they want, the beauty of modern games is that we get to act as designers ourselves. There are online communities like Scratch.Mit.Edu where people come together not just to build games and to play them, but to understand what makes them work and work on the skills of being a designer themselves. In my opinion, these are some of the most relevant skills for modern jobs. So to wrap things up, are video games educational? My answer is kind of. Video games are simulated experience. What you take away from them depends on who you are and the context within which you play the game. If you're a parent trying to help your child navigate the world of video games, my advice to you is to ask them questions and listen about their experience. Ask them what do they enjoy? What challenges do they run into? How do they respond when they fail? And do they understand the real-world parallels of this game to the simulated experience that exists in the outside world? All of these questions can be asked in a way that communicates that you already believe your child is mature enough to learn from any experience. And if you're an enthusiast yourself, my only recommendation is moderation. If you find yourself sweating through your 200th match of a first-person shooter of a day, ask yourself, are you getting anything positive out of it? Maybe download a puzzle game or go for a walk around the neighborhood. You can always re-download Pokemon Go as you go for a stroll. I hope this was helpful and that you learned a little bit about learning. My channel focuses on explaining nerd culture and sometimes the science behind it, so if you found this interesting, I hope you'll subscribe for more videos.